Ron DeSantis is going up against Andrew Gillum. Ron DeSantis is the Republican. He is a big Trump supporter. Trump loves him. He loves Trump. I saw one of his ads about a kid. It was hilarious. He was like, I'm not all about Trump. He's like, I'm a family man too. And he's like building a wall with this kid and he's like doing all Trump things with the kid. It was hilarious. It was like a super trolly. I was like, man, that's one of the best political ads I've ever seen. It was super funny. Anyway, I saw it on the Young Turks. They were trying to make fun of it, but I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, he's going up against Andrew Gillum, who is the progressive insurgent. As you guys know, progressive basically means far left socialist movement that they, guys under the guise of, oh, it's progressive, we're progressing, even though they're regressing into socialism. But Andrew Gillum, as I've predicted for over a year now that the progressive socialist wing is going to take over the Democrat Party, they beat the normal Democrat, establishment guy, Andrew Gillum, supported by Bernie Sanders, Our Revolution, the Young Turks, Justice Democrats, just your normal socialists that you could totally love and trust. So, of course, Andrew Gillum, he's a graduate of Florida A&M. He's the 1998 Gainesville Sun Person of the Year. I mean, he's an amazing American, very charismatic guy. But unfortunately, today I have to talk about him being a black man. I wish we didn't always have to talk about race, but over the last 2 years, the liberal media has basically brought racism back times tenfold, and you can't even have a conversation or eat a banana or use mainstream phrases without being called a racist. So, of course, in my personal perspective, Ron DeSantis probably should have used other wording, but he's probably so not racist, he wasn't really thinking about what he was saying and just speaking. So I'm going to quote him, and the media's freaking out, already trying to say that Ron DeSantis is calling this guy a monkey because, you can't make this stuff up, folks. Ron DeSantis, the Republican, was on TV and he said, the last thing we need, I have the direct quote, the last thing we need to do is monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. I'll read it again, Ron DeSantis. The last thing we need to do is monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. Should be basically a basic standard thing to say. According to Merriam-Webster, which is one of the most popular dictionaries in the world, monkeying about with means to handle or play with something careless or in a foolish way. Webster also says monkey up, as he said monkey up means to hack together hardware for a particular task. An extremely crafty and consciously temporary solution. As you all know, monkey up to craft a temporary solution. Socialism is obviously a temporary solution. Monkey up would be, according to the dictionary, the perfect word to describe socialism, because socialism is high taxes, bunch of welfare programs, taking power, control, and money away from the people, handing it to the government in the guise of like, oh, we're going to spread this around to the people and the workers are going to control the parties. But as he said, with a monkey it up, a socialist solution has literally never worked anywhere in the world. Even top democratic socialists, such as Harvard graduate and professor, I don't know if he graduated from Harvard or he's just a professor there, but Cornel West, who I love, will even admit to you that socialism's literally never worked. So the term monkey it up, when it comes to Webster's dictionary, is a perfect fit. It's a temporary solution, just something carelessly put together that fails every single time. But of course, we live in the generation where the dictionary is literally being manipulated in front of our very eyes, as is social media algorithms, which I'm going to talk about later. Dictionary.com has a massive liberal bias, retweeted and said, hey, this is racist, trust me. It wasn't like Merriam-Webster himself, it was Dictionary.com, who knows who owns it. But they're like, this is racist because a person of color said that. So they're so not racist, they're bringing back terms from the 1950s and the 1960s when we had separated bathrooms and separated, disgusting, really disturbing stuff that ever existed. But now when I see how liberals operate, it's not hard for me to see how that type of racism can really strive under big government. But anyway, you have people of color. They're like, we're so not racist. We're going to call, black people of color. And we're so not racist, we're going to take the term monkey this up when talking about a socialist agenda, and we're going to assume that he's talking about the, black opponent that he's running against. These people, while I think similar to Roseanne Barr, although this one's way less worse than what Roseanne said, it's, they're so determined to keep racism alive. All they see is race. They don't see Andrew Gillum as a person. They don't see him as a Florida A&M graduate. Unfortunately, they don't see him as the 1998 Gainesville Sun Person of the Year winner. This is probably the only news source that you're going to hear that he actually won that award. They'll probably never talk about it because to him, he's a black man. You're a Native American woman, transgender, gender queer, transvestite, running in Vermont. It's like they don't care about the content of your character. They solely see you as the label that gives them supremacy over any other person that's trying to oppose them, unfortunately. They don't really have an ideology or a real agenda that makes sense economically, spiritually, realistically. So they have to mask their horrible ideas behind people of color and, transgender and these type of terms. So similar to what Jordan Peterson says, it's a similar tactic to what a terrorist does. I'm not calling them terrorists, but metaphorically, it's the same exact, way that a terrorist operates. They put women and children on the fronts of their cars and whatnot, or they'll do operating facilities out of hospitals. So then when you attack them, you attack the hospital. When you attack them, you attack the women and children. And then they could say, why did you attack the women and children? We were just shooting missiles at you with women on the front of our cars, and now you retaliated, you're hurting women and children. It's the same thing that liberals and progressives do. Because if you attack their idea, now you're attacking a person of color, a woman, a transgender, and they sacrifice these ideological groups for their agenda that is high taxes, high regulation, complete government control of the health industry, things that would be ridiculously unpopular if you gave them, face value and explained how they actually work, but they have to disguise them in progressive. They don't want to tell you that they have a socialist, Marxist, communist ideology, so they'll say I'm progressive, I'm making progress, even though socialism and communism in the real world is the opposite of progress. It's been the most regressive ideology that I could think of government-wise because it ends up in complete government control or a dictator every time because it's a fantasy land ideology that just has no place and no value in our humanity yet. But it's the same free healthcare. Well, it's not free. It's taxpayer dollars. Everywhere that there's free healthcare, there's ridiculously high taxes. So it's not free. You're going to be paying for it with your taxes, but they don't want to tell you that, so they call it free. Universal healthcare, is it coming from the universe? No, it's coming from the taxpayer. Affordable healthcare is not really affordable, so they have to hide their failed ideology behind people of color and behind false labels, unfortunately. And it's really, really sick and disturbing to me because I would love for racism to go away. I made a great video where I referenced Kanye West, Waka Flocka Flame, and Morgan Freeman, explaining, stop calling me a black man, just call me Morgan Freeman, and we won't have racism. If you continuously keep the word alive and the labels alive, you have division. If you have words that certain people can say and words that other people can't say, you're creating inequality. The N-word, of course, I never use it. It's not in my vocabulary, nor should it be. It's a derogatory word, except it's in rap songs. So to be honest, like a lot of, white or Latino people or Puerto Rican people rap along to it and say it because it's in all the music. And then you have Kendrick Lamar on stage saying, no, you can't say the N-word. How dare you say the N-word? But you called her on stage to sing your song, to karaoke your song, the words in your song, and now you're yelling at her for singing the lyrics of your song. It's not equality. That is the definition of inequality. If you're black, you can say that. If you're Spanish and, good in the hood, you can say that. But if you're white or, not Spanish enough or not, cool enough, Latino, you can't say it. That's the definition of inequality. It's the same thing with monkey around, monkey wrench, monkey it up. Calling kids monkeys. This is something that millions of people do. Monkey wrench is a word. It's like me, for instance, I always use the term chink in the chain. I use that term because it's an effective term talking about a chain, a chink in the chain, a chink in the armor. It's a Merriam dictionary word. But if I was speaking to somebody Asian and I said chink in the chain, I wouldn't be saying it because I'm racist. I'm calling them that derogatory racist word. I would never do that. I have love for Asians. I stand up for Asians. And I talk about how liberals not only never talk about Asians or include Asians in their multiracial agenda, but they actually penalize Asians for being smarter and better and, more self-responsible and having great parents who, really get their kids on the right path. It's the liberals who are penalizing Asians for being, too self-responsible. That's why when you go to Japan or you go to these other countries, they have very little crime because they don't accept other cultures into their culture. Unless you can respect their culture, they don't want you there. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a smart way to keep crime and, garbage off the streets, is to make sure that if people want to come to your country, they respect your culture. I love it. God bless Japan. But this is not the liberal ideology. They penalize Asians. But if I was to say that, Anomaly's racist. He's calling, no, that's how racist you are. You're doing mental backflips to make it onto that person when it has nothing to do with that. It's literally a dictionary word, as is monkey up, monkeying around, monkey wrench. To give you an example, there was a little black kid from, I believe, Sweden, who was, extremely dark. Obviously, the kid was a model, so I'm not going to say a little kid is good looking. I feel like that would be creepy, but you know what I mean. I mean, the kid's clearly a model, so he's, good looking for what they're doing, essentially, so without being weird. They took him out of H&M, G-Eazy left, The Weeknd left. They dropped their H&M endorsements because he was wearing a shirt that said something like monkeying around or like My Little Monkey, or I don't know exactly what it is, but it's what parents call their kids. Like millions of parents call their kids little monkeys. It's like a little childish name for your kid. But because he was black, everybody freaked out and said, oh my God, H&M is racist. And this is just another example of liberal racism and their desperation to keep racism alive. Because if he doesn't get the job, if there's not enough little black models, then it's racist. Why are there no, little black kids on this website? But then if he actually gets the job, oh, no, it's racist, so you can't win. It's like Scarlett Johansson. She gets a job. Oh, that's women in film. You want them to be paid as much, right? They're not getting paid as much. But then she gets a job, but because she's playing a transgender role, got to do mental backflips, she's not allowed to do that. They should give that to a transgender girl because Scarlett Johansson's not a trans. So now they're taking a job away. They riot. Scarlett Johansson lost out on tens of millions of dollars because of the liberal mob mentality saying she's not transgender enough. And the mother, I have to say, of the H&M model of the kid who said monkeying around or My Little Monkey, I don't remember the exact term, something along those lines. She was a Swedish mother, black for the record, but she said, I am upset that people lost the job for him because, one, we don't think like that. My family doesn't think like that. Stop trying to make us think like that. That's why I'm successful and my son is successful, because we don't have this creepy racist ideology that we're always playing the victim and always like looking too deep into like Webster dictionary words. We wanted that job. That's why I gave my son that job. So not the liberal mob mentality attacked this kid, lost the job for the mom and the kid, and now the kid probably has a hard time booking gigs. Maybe he has an easier time, but they forever ruined this kid's life and made him the poster child for an agenda that him and his parents didn't want to be a part of. So it's like Ron DeSantis clearly said, the last thing we need to do is monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. Webster Dictionary says monkey it up. Monkey up means to hack together hardware for a particular task or an extremely crafty and consciously temporary solution. This is exactly what he was talking about. This is exactly what socialism is, but you see why I made that Morgan Freeman video. You see why I made that How to End Racism video. It's because racism will never die with liberals. Racism will never die with progressives. They live off racism. They thrive off racism. Who else do you know that makes 5 and 6 figures a year by being racist? By literally keeping racism alive and finding racism and putting a microscope on it? It's all liberals and progressives. They can't live without racism. They can't win elections without racism, so they have to find the racism in everything, even when it's not there, and they're actually increasing racism. They're making people more racist because, first of all, they're having an unequal playing field. You can't use dictionary words if it's against black people, but if it's against Asians, it's okay. If it's against white people, it's okay. Because we think this lowly of black people that we don't think they'll be able to handle the difference between somebody discriminating them and somebody just using a Webster Dictionary word when they happen to be around. That's how lowly they think. That's why they take pictures next to pilots and say, oh my goodness, I'm so happy a black woman's here. What could be more racist than the low expectation ideology that, oh my God, I'm so surprised that they're here. Wow, congratulations for being an insert label here. I'm tired of liberal racism. They have unequal playing fields and they refuse to let it die out. Small fringe KKK and neo-Nazi groups have been marching in America every year for the past 30, 40 years. And it's been small. No one's cared about it. Everyone's left them alone and been like, freedom of speech, I don't agree with them, I hate them, but let them make fools of themselves publicly. Everybody knows who they are, they can see their face, and then they go back in the shadows and nobody cares about it. But now you have Vice News and pseudo-intellectual, progressive, and liberal news putting a spotlight on these racists. So now racism is thriving and growing because they're being promoted by liberal media. They were slowly declining. Now it's back on its way up because they can't have a conversation without saying racism. So if you're in Florida, just remember, and if you're anywhere in the world, this is the cultural Marxism of what's going on. I'm going to talk about it more with Facebook and Google. But I'm so tired of the racism of the left. I'm so tired of the supremacist ideology and the unequal ideology. If you think that way, you're not allowed to think that way if you're black. These are the same people, if it was a black conservative running against and saying that, they would say it's totally fine because he's black. Or they would say, you're a sellout, you're an Uncle Tom, you're a phony, you hate black people, you're not black. Literally just yesterday you had a intellectual black athlete being called stupid and not black enough because he had a neutral conversation about the president. This is like a total fascist takeover of the United States, and this is how they're going to try, and I don't want to exaggerate, but this is how they're going to try to implement socialism under the guise of racial equality and progressivism, but they're literally pushing racial inequality at every single term to the point where they can't fight ideologies of Ron DeSantis and the success of Ron DeSantis, so they have to say he's racist by using a Webster dictionary term about socialism because it's a failed ideology. And I mean, I don't know what else I could really say about it other than what I just said. It's a word, it's a term. If you can't use terms, what are we coming to? These are the same people that are tearing down statues. No, you can't think differently than me, and then I'm going to tear down that statue. I'm going to literally change the dictionary. They're changing words in the dictionary, saying that fascism is a right-wing ideology when it's a left-wing political ideology. They're manipulating the dictionary. The dictionary's lying on Twitter, and now they're tearing down statues. They're saying you can't use certain words in the dictionary. This is a complete cultural takeover under the guise of liberalism and racial equality. And Ron DeSantis is just another victim to the very racist left that will find anything and everything they can to take your words out of context and manipulate it to try to gain, black and Latino and minority voters, the ones that they care so much about, until they're intelligent and smart and do well, and then they try to penalize them. You're Asian and you're doing well, oh, we're going to not let you into college now because you're doing too well. We love you, but we're going to raise your taxes, we're going to steal your money, and then we're going to not let you into college. But it's because we like you. You're a minority, and you have to feel weak and victimized. God forbid you feel empowered and you feel happy and you feel grateful and you love the Constitution. Now we're going to try to destroy your life. But it's because we love you. It's because we love minorities. We're going to try to destroy you if you're successful. I mean, that's just the liberal way, unfortunately, and everybody knows it. On to the next note.